Hello, members of the commission. I appreciate the time and opportunity to speak with you. My name is Patrick Case. I am the founder and owner of Wood Chips Barbecue, one of the aforementioned 40 who did have their license suspended this past November, as my leadership made a very difficult decision to keep my doors open in order to keep my people employed. It's very interesting to hear your reports and see how much different perspective there is between the regulators and the regulated. Your guys' view of things is different than the things that I'm seeing on the ground floor. And I'm not going to be somebody who pretends to speak for every retailer out there, but I would just encourage you guys to have more conversations with us and get our perspective on things, because on many of the ways that you laid out stuff today, it's different for us where we operate. So I'm here today mostly to offer comments on the process that I had to go through, the lack of real due process that I had, and what felt like an overreach where another executive level department was charged with enforcing something that mostly fell outside of their purview, and led to us being persecuted and prosecuted, meanwhile having maintained a stellar track record when it came to safe alcohol service and adhering to the 320 some pages of liquor control regulations that we are charged with following. So we chose to stay open, and we did it very transparently. We spoke with every available authority figure around, from local police to the sheriff to city commissioners, trying to make the health department aware of what we were doing and why we were doing it, explaining all the different safety and health measures that we were implementing to do it, and explaining that we were open to having conversations with anybody who would make sure that my people were taken care of. But to force my single mothers, to force the breadwinners of families onto our lowly unemployment system, which had no enhancements at the time, was unacceptable for me before the holidays. And while I can understand the drive to support health and safety, to ignore the fact that this was going to put single mothers in a position where instead of earning the $1,000 plus per week they could earn working for me, that they would be taking home barely over $300 for what ended up stretching into months long, did not put health and safety first. It did not put the health and safety of those children first. And all I wanted was to have the conversations, but nobody would have the conversation. The health department was dismissive and wouldn't talk to me, even after I was threatened with lawsuits from my employees, as I just needed clarification, as they were asking me to what seemed like overstep the rules I was charged with following from the American with Disabilities Act. The MLCC would not have conversations with me. When they came to confiscate our license, we adhered to the rules. We immediately stopped selling alcohol. I've always acted responsibly and treated everybody with respect who came there, and was never derogatory, inflammatory, or provocative with the inspectors. But when the time came for the hearing, as you alluded to, the perfect track record of you guys securing victories in every one, I hate to use this term because it sounds inflammatory, but from our point of view, it was a kangaroo court. We are not allowed to make any sort of constitutional, whether federal or Michigan-based arguments. We are only allowed to deal with the administrative rules of those 300 plus pages. But the challenge came from, we were not even defending against that rule, we were defending against the ability of liquor control to enforce the edicts of the head of the MDHHS, because we never violated any liquor control laws. So even though we went through our hearing, we had the sympathy of the judge, the Attorney General, it was very discouraging to see the way they acted, in which during the opening statement alone, where they would say, we are not here because of a violation of the health department, and he ended his opening statement with, we are here because you violated a health department code. And that was how my trial started off, and it was not objected to. The judge would not say anything to it. So knowing that in the first opening statement he was able to contradict himself, I knew that victory was going to have to be measured in a different form. I felt we did do well. We were one of the only places to face a single count. The judge did reduce our sentence. We had a $300 fine and a 45-day continued suspension, which we followed and completed successfully. But my frustration came from within this process. At no point when anybody talked to me, when nobody had conversations, when nobody made sure that my single moms, the breadwinners in my family, children all involved, they were taken care of. And then to have to deal with the hypocrisy of when I went to go actually physically pick up my license for return, then I'm not here to put any individuals on blast or get anybody in trouble. The gentleman who I dealt with, I went inside the facility. they were not adhering to the own policies that were supposedly in place at the time, and I've documented this, but again, I'm not here to release this or get anybody in trouble. I've only done it to protect myself. And he apologized for the whole situation. In each situation that I had, whether dealing with liquor control, the MDHHS, my OSHA, it was always awkward in that you could tell that the regulators didn't want to be there, didn't have the answers, and were just there at the behest of the people working above them, because at the end of the day, they needed to make sure they got their paycheck. And it became disturbing when you could see what amounted to a form of party loyalty, where even though these individuals may have had personal objections, maybe even knowing what they were doing was wrong, that there is no platform for them to be able to voice those objections without risking their ability to maintain their pensions, their benefits, and the pay for their family. So I'm one for discussion. I'm one for open exchange. I think that leads to the best solutions for everybody. But this process on many levels has been controlled with a singular narrative, and those of us with objections are pushed to the side, including when the lockdown came and the media finally pushed the health department to please release the data that shows the restaurants are a true threat. They admitted that no data exists, that this is just based off our modeling and it's too hard to gather. And even when we got the final order from the MLCC upholding our conviction, the example provided for why restaurants were a risk was an observational study out of Korea involving 3 people. And that was the foundation for them saying that restaurants were a danger. We completed our period successfully. We had never had any contact tracing come back to us, no transmissible cases, no one within our workplace family has ever been hospitalized from it. That's not me saying that there's not a risk out there for people, but I'm saying that we got through, we took care of our people, we acted as a nonprofit, donated thousands of dollars to the community, we're able to get Christmas bonuses to our people, keeping them employed so they were able to keep roofs over their families' heads. And all I want to do here is give voice to those people and realize that as you guys do take the actions, and even when you feel it's justified, please seek out the input from those of us that it truly does affect. Because we're not all just shaking our fist at government, demanding communism go away. Some of us are reasonable people that just want to be heard. We want to do our best to keep everybody safe and comply as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanks. The only thing that I would take exception to is we're not a communist form of government.
No, I said I'm not that.
Oh, okay.
I said I'm not that guy that's up there doing that.
Because I was going to have a debate with you on that right now. We appreciate your frustration. Think of what we had to go through to Commissioner O'Shaughnessy's point, and then I'd like them to chime in. In March, we met here on the 13th to do a licensing meeting. It was a Friday. And after that, the next week we shut down, and we were gone for a long time. It's hard on everybody, including us, having to try and do what the legislature put in law we need to do.
I hate to object, but
let me finish what I'm saying.
I apologize.
It's hard on everybody, and I'm not going to cast any aspersions on you or your feelings. The only thing I would say is that if anybody on this telephone call feels they have a complaint that they're not being listened to, please call the commission office, ask for one of us, ask for me. We will get back with you, and we will try, just as I've said to Mr. Burnett here or Mr. Love, number one, to listen to you, and number two, to respect what you have, they have the right to say. And hopefully out of the third thing we can do out of that is help you in some form of communication, whether it be with anyone in our system or any of our staff people. That's what all 5 of the commissioners were all appointed by the governor. We want to do that. We want to respect your opinion. You have the right to your opinion. You handled yourself very well. You weren't confrontational. I misunderstood what you said about communism. I apologize for that. But we want to respect you, and we want to try and help. That's what we're here for. We are public servants. And with that, commissioners, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay.
If I can just respond, sure. Again, it sort of comes down to like the perspective, and you know, it was hard on everybody.
Yes.
Can I ask, were any of your jobs ever in jeopardy? Did anybody ever miss a paycheck here?
Anybody that worked for the state of Michigan did not miss a paycheck that I know of.
Okay, so it feels disingenuous to say that it was hard on everybody when my business is almost completely collapsed, when I almost had to lose my home, when my businesses almost went bankrupt, when my people had to be laid off and there wasn't a safety net for them.
But it wasn't our fault.
I'm not saying it was your fault,
Okay.
but I'm saying to say that
Well,
was hard.
wait a second, what
Well,
was,
you
what
gave
is
me
state, go ahead.
All I'm saying is it comes off again as the difference between the perspectives of the regulator and the regulatee to say that we were all in this together when there were clearly those of us that had far more difficult paths. And a lot of those paths were made because of the choices and decisions that you made. And you have your motivations for that, or you felt you had to, or you were compelled to, and I understand that.
Okay.
But all I'm asking for is the understanding that there were those of us, many of whom work in my industry tend to be at the lower end of socio-demographics. We're often treated as second-class citizens in a lot of ways, and that seems to perpetuate if you say that it was hard on everybody. But I watched what my people went through when they were trying to survive off unemployment and take care of their kids. We were trying to do everything we could to make sure that we took care of them, and we felt we had no allies. So.
Let me say it was hard on everybody in different ways. And once again, I'm offered to you the fact that if you feel frustrated and you need to talk to somebody, call the commission office. We'll respond to it. I will personally respond to it if I need to. But you can tell that we were proud of the way we acted during the course of last year, and that's different than the way you feel. Okay, so we have a difference, but you're right, if we can respect each other's opinion,
Sure.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I can respect
Please
it.
call if you have any problems, yes.
Again, I spoke earlier, and this is Commissioner Ochoa. I understand where you're coming in, but early last year, we had no idea where this was going.
It wasn't early last year, Commissioner. We were shut down and we followed the orders.
We can talk afterwards, I don't wanna make it a debate here, but you could have had no customers. We didn't know where it was going. We had one instance, I think we had a hearing, and we had 800 people listening on the line.
Well, I appreciate you not closing my business completely. Thank
And it
you.
was an event where, I call it super spreader, but a lot of people got sick. And those are the things that we have to think about, public health. It's important, and again, I'll emphasize one more time, we had no idea where this is going.
Yes,
Quite
but still
frankly,
picking winners and losers doesn't help.
We don't have an idea of where things could go in the future, although I think through this process, we've learned a lot of better ways to handle it. That was a completely out of nowhere it came. You know that, I know that.
My issue was with November. This was several months after that.
Very good.
Okay, well, this is a discussion that we had internally last winter when we were deciding to go out and enforce public health laws. And this is the kind of back and forth that we had with people, and I think it's great that you showed up today to hear from a real live business person their feelings that didn't agree with what we were doing. That's fine. Once again, let me say, we're here to respect your opinion, anybody's opinion here, from Mr. Love to you, to any of the commissioners. And like I said, frustration, if you have frustration, get a hold of us. Call, email, and we will respond. If we don't respond, make sure we know about it, but we will respond. So I think that takes care of everybody. Anybody else in the room that wishes to speak? Put your name on the record and let us know what you have to say.
You set it on the table. You can set it on the table, it's fine.
Okay, I'm having a difficult time hearing. I'm Bill Amundson, Assistant Pastor of the United Methodist Church downtown Lansing and board member of the Michigan Council on Alcohol Problems. I work sometimes with kids and tell them what they got to look forward to with this hearing business, you know. Not the hearing here, but the hearing here. Okay, gotcha. I want to say that some of our issues at the Michigan Council on Alcohol Problems deal with the legislature, and I'm aware that you're not the legislature. But, and I thank you for trying to be the go-between between the safety of the community around and the persons also who dispense alcohol and try and broker that thing. But we have a couple concerns, and I would share with you one of the reasons that I'm here and work with the Michigan Council is because my brother abused himself of alcohol.